let me show you how to make a traditional Neapolitan pizza dough. It has amazing flavor and you get those beautiful big bubbles on your crust. We're going to start with a biga. Biga is a pre-ferment. It does take a little bit of extra time, but it not only improves the flavor, but the texture of the dough, and it is so worth it. To a container, add 500 grams, 4 cups of tipo 00 flour. Then add in 1 gram, half a teaspoon of yeast. I'm just using a quick instant yeast, but if you're using a yeast that needs to be activated, add it to your water first. Then add in 250 grams or 1 cup of water. Mine is room temperature, but if you're using a yeast that needs activating, make sure your water is slightly warm. Then start to mix it together. Once it looks a little bit shaggy, get in there with your hands. This isn't going to come together into a perfect dough at this point. We just want to try and moisten as much of the flour as we can. If you've got larger pieces of your dough like this, just split them up. It gives the biga more of a chance to rise up and it doesn't have to work so hard. As the biga sits, the flour will absorb more of the water and it will become more dough-like, although it will still be pretty shaggy. You can let this sit out at room temperature for 16 to 20 hours or in the refrigerator for up to 48 hours. The longer it ferments, the more flavor you're going to get. After 16 to 20 hours, your biga should look something like this. You'll start to see some air bubbles. It will start to look a little bit more like a dough, but it will still be a bit shaggy. It should have a sweet aroma and smell a little bit like yeasty bread.
I would highly recommend using a stand mixer or a hand mixer with dough hooks at the very least for this recipe.
Scrape your biga into a large bowl, and you can see there's still quite a bit of dry, floury bits, and that's okay. Just make sure you get it all in there. And you'll need 200 grams, about 7/8 cups of water. I'm going to start by adding just half of it and adding the rest once I've started mixing it together.
Once the first lot of water has been absorbed, add in half of the remaining water. Then add in the last addition of water.
I do like to scrape down the sides about halfway through and the bottom to make sure that there's no dry bits of biga still hanging around.
Now slowly add in 45 grams or 6 tablespoons of the tipo 00 flour. You'll want to knead this dough for about 8 to 10 minutes. You can see the dough is now starting to pull away from the sides of the bowl. This is what we want, so if this isn't happening for you, adjust your flour or water ratios. You could add in a little bit of either at this point to adjust the texture of the dough. You can see the dough is really soft and silky. It's still a bit sticky, but it holds up pretty well when you pull it out of the bowl. That shows us we've really developed that gluten.
I'm going to lightly oil my work surface and my hands and just give the dough a few slap and folds. You do this by going in the middle of the dough and picking it up and folding it over on itself. You may need to add a little more oil to your hands because it is quite sticky. But that stickiness is going to give us that really tender, beautiful dough. And you can see it's coming together really nicely now.
Add it into a container that's been lined with oil and drizzle a little bit more on top. Then cover it up and set it aside.
Set it aside for another 60 to 90 minutes. You'll want this to double in size, so if your kitchen is quite cold, it might need up to 2 hours. At this stage, split the dough into balls. This should make up to 5 small pizzas, but I like to do them slightly larger, so I usually split mine into 4. Take your little ball of dough and just give it some slap and folds, trying to keep the bottom on the bottom. With your oiled hands, take the dough and drag it across your counter. This will help to create tension on the top of the dough. And this sort of chopping motion really helps to create that tension and get the dough tucked underneath. Because this is a high hydration dough, it can feel a little bit difficult to work with, but just trust the process. You can absolutely do this. The high hydration is what gives us that tender crust and those big bubbles.
Once your dough looks like this, generously oil your baking tray and then transfer the dough to the tray. Add another drizzle of olive oil on the top and spread it over so nothing dries out. Then cover the dough with either a large bowl or if your tray has high sides, you can use a towel.
You want to let them prove for a further 2 hours. You could also pop them in the fridge and let them cold prove for up to 24 hours. Again, this enhances the texture and the flavor. When you have about 30 minutes left on your prove, you want to preheat your oven to as hot as it will go. You want to do the preheating because we really want that oven up to temperature when we put the pizza in there. This will make sure we get a nicely cooked bottom and no soggy bits. The dough has risen up and we're ready to make some pizza. Start by putting a really good layer of semola flour on your work surface. If you haven't got semola, you can just use plain flour, or you could do a mixture of plain and semolina flour. I just really like the texture of semola. It's a lot finer than a semolina, and so you don't get that grit on your pizza. Drop your ball of dough top side down into the semola, and then flip it over. This allows us to work with the dough and get it to move around. Now, we're wanting to keep all of those air bubbles in there, so I start by making an indentation for my crust on the edge, and then I work my way out just really gently and spread the dough. Neapolitan pizza is not necessarily thin crust, and you can pull it and stretch it from the center, but be careful with those edges.
Once you have your desired shape, place your dough on a pan lightly dusted with semola flour. Add your favorite sauce. I've linked my quick tomato sauce in the description below. Then top with mozzarella cheese. I've also linked my recipe for how to make mozzarella cheese at home in the description below. You can add any additional toppings at this point, but don't add too many because it will make your pizza soggy. I like to gently brush the edges of my crust with some olive oil to help with the browning, and into the oven.
I'm using a pizza stone, and so I've put my tray of pizza directly on top of that. The pizza stone will transfer the heat through the tray so that I get a nice crust on the bottom of my pizza. But if you haven't got one, I'd recommend placing the pizza on the very bottom of your oven, right on the bottom, so that it's touching all the way across, so that it gets that heat really bursting through it. And then after about 4 minutes, you can move it up to the middle rack to get the browning on top. You could even set your oven to grill or broil for the last 30 seconds to get that blistering. Mine took about 8 minutes, but what you're looking for is that leoparding and browning on the crust, and for the ingredients to be nice and dry and not runny on the top of the pizza. This may vary depending on your oven. I've just gone for a traditional margherita with tomato sauce, fresh mozzarella, and some basil. If you're looking for the quickest no-cook tomato sauce for your pizza, you have to try my recipe here. If you found this video helpful, please head down below, hit the like or hype button, and let me know what your favorite pizza topping is in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.